I didn't think I would dislike it this much. And yeah. Hi there, my name's Alana, and here at Classy on the Run, we love talking about luxury and high-end makeup and beauty. Today I'm so excited to be sharing my thoughts with you on the brand new Natasha Denona Mini Biba and the mini cream and blush duo that was launched at the same time. So I'm wearing both products on my face today, and as you can see, it looks absolutely beautiful. Now, it was a little bit of a process to get here. So in this video, we are going to start by applying the makeup, where, you know, that's probably why you guys are here. And then we're gonna take a look at some swatches, and then I will share with you my final thoughts. So let's get into it. Start this look with why we're all here, and that is of course the mini Biba palette. The eyeshadows in this palette include Bruno and Izzy, which are both creamy mattes, Blaze Nude, which is metallic, Plush, which is a creamy matte, and Wink, which is, I believe, a pearl. I'm gonna start off with my Sonia G Worker 2 brush, and I'm gonna go in with Plush, which is this creamy matte sort of corally color. We're gonna use that in our transition. And then I'm gonna work it over the rest of my eyelid. Okay, so off the bat, I'm finding this kind of annoying to work with. It's not her best matte formula. I'm finding that I have to apply a lot of pressure to the brush and really work it around, and I just normally don't find that with her matte formula. So we're gonna repeat that process on the other side using, again, Plush. See, if you can see right here, I'm really having to work to blend it, and I'm just not used to having to do that with Natasha Denona shadows. Okay, this is not off to a good start. It's okay, it's in the name of YouTube science. So I'm gonna use my Liz Wautier crease brush along with this middle brown shade here in our transition and crease. I know that we already have the pink sort of in our transition, but I decided as we were going to more blend that all over and use that more as a base. So we're gonna use this to build up a little bit of depth and dimension, and then packing it a little bit on the outer third to outer half of the eye, again, just to build up a little bit of dimension in our base. This is also not blending all that great. It's honestly kind of uncomfortable on the eye to blend. And before someone says like use better brushes, the first brush I used was a Sonia G, which I think is a pretty fantastic brush. And this Liz Wautier one, again, has never let me down. I'm not complaining with the look, it's just I'm really having to work to get there. So we're gonna take this brown matte shade here. I'm just using a flat shader brush to pack it on approximately the outer third of the eye, and then we're gonna blend that in. So going back in with my Liz Wautier to blend that in. Okay, so this is coming together. I'm just really having to work to get there. So I'm gonna use my finger with Blaze Nude, and I'm just gonna again put that all over my lid to just bring in that sparkle. And look, I know with Natasha Denona, it's like the minute you add that pop of sparkle, the whole look comes together. It looks beautiful. You know, I'm not here to argue about that, but I do just want to kind of share with you my thoughts as we apply it. I'm just grabbing a clean, fluffy blending brush to diffuse that into my crease. And then let's just try this last brown shade here on the outer bit of my eye. Again, I'm using a Sonia G Worker 3 brush this time. We're just gonna do it to bring just a touch more depth. And then we're just going right back in with that blending brush to just diffuse it all together. Okay, and I'm going back in with this shade here just to go under our eye a touch. Okay, so we are looking good, even if it was a little bit of a fight to get there. I'm gonna pop on some mascara and eyeliner, and then we'll move on to the blush. Okay, so now on to the blush. So I'm not gonna lie, when I saw this blush duo, I thought I'd already seen it in a couple of places from Natasha. So we're gonna take a look at that after, but we're just today, in this moment, we're just going to focus on the products at hand. So to my knowledge, this is a cream blush and a powder highlighter. So I'm gonna go with my Refer 24 brush and just tap it into the blush. For our highlighter today, I'm going to go in with my Refer 18 brush, and I'm just going to be sweeping this over the high points of my face. I'm also going to tap the highlighter in my inner corner and then under my brow. Okay, so as we can see, the look looks beautiful on the face, but it was a little bit of a struggle to get here. To be honest, typically I love Natasha Denona's formula, but I found this formula is really, really hard to work with. That's not to take away with how great it looks on the eye, but it just wasn't as creamy and buildable as I tend to find from her products. So let's do some comparison swatches. Now, what's interesting about the mini Biba palette is when I saw it, I didn't think Biba at all. Now, Natasha Denona has a bit of a habit when she's releasing her midi and her mini and her full-size palettes that she'll release two in the same line. But they're not sisters. They're definitely not twins. They're not sisters. They're maybe cousins. They're sort of an extension on the palette. Now, the mini Biba is meant to be an extension on the Biba palette. So look, I see it. I get it. Personally, I would have rather have seen more of a Biba on the go. I would have rather have seen some shadows that are in this palette that I know and love in a mini travel friendly format. For me, the reality with the full-size Biba palette is that this palette costs 170 Canadian dollars, which is, that's a lot of money, okay? And I am terrified of this thing breaking because I know that I'd want to replace it ASAP. It's such a beautiful palette, but $170 is a lot of money. And so I don't travel with it, although I wish I could. So I would definitely love to see this in a travel-friendly format. Now, the other thing I'd love to see from Natasha, quite honestly, would be a midi-size Biba palette. I think that'd be perfect. But let's talk about the product on hand. I'm gonna start by swatching mini Biba and comparing it to the most comparable shades in the full-size Biba palette. So this is the midi Biba, and then this is the most similar of the full-size Biba shadows. And as you can see, the mini Biba palette swatches terribly. Like, look at that skipping and the patchiness. Now, we saw that it took a little bit of work to get there on my eye, but in the swatch you can see it loud and clear. The formula, I think, on the full-size Biba is much better. It's creamier, it's easier to work with, it's easier to blend, and I find it's more pigmented. In comparison, quite honestly, these shadows fall up short. The shadows from the midi Biba definitely pull more pink, more coral toned compared to the, honestly, more of a true neutral that you're going to find in the full-size Biba palette. But to be quite honest, when I saw this palette, what I actually thought about was the eyeshadows in the Glam face palette. So let's compare those swatches, both the eyeshadows and the blush next. So off the bat, looking at the blushes first, the blush in the Rose Cheek duo is definitely brighter, whereas the blush in the Glam face palette is more muted, more of a sort of a tan colored blush. The highlighters do look quite similar, though I will say that the highlighter in the Glam palette right here packs a lot more of a punch. When it comes to eyeshadow, I will say that the eyeshadows in the Glam face palette, which is featured on top, are softer, rosier neutrals, whereas the eyeshadows featured in the mini Biba palette are a little bit more of a bold, sort of neutral coral. Now, taking a look at the swatches. So here we have the mini Biba, which I did re-swatch to try to get it to show up a little bit better. And here we have the Glam face palette. If you're trying to decide between the two of these, honestly, I would recommend the Glam face palette. And if you saw my review of that, which I'll leave linked down below, I wasn't obsessed. With the highlighters, again, we see that the highlighter in the Glam face palette packs more of a punch than the one available in the duo. And then in terms of the blush, they do swatch out pretty similar, and I think they're both fine. Both actually have quite a similar formula in that they're cream blushes, but honestly, when you're applying them, you might as well treat them as a powder. I'll just do a comparison holding them up so you can see that they really don't have too much in common. But on top we have mini Glam, and on the bottom we have mini Biba. On top, we have the Camel palette, and on the bottom, we have the mini Biba. As you can see, again, the Camel really sticks to those neutral brown tones, which is not the case at all with the mini Biba. Now, to be honest, when I saw that they were releasing a mini Biba, I thought it was going to be more of the tones that you find in Camel. I think in part that's because the tones that you find in Camel are the shadows I use within the full-size Biba palette. Now, on top, we have mini Zendo. When I opened up the mini Biba palette, I definitely was thinking of the oranges that you find in Zendo. So here we have mini Biba, and here we have mini Zendo. And as you can see, while they don't have a ton in common as a collection of palettes, there are some shade similarities. I think these two are a lot in common, although this one's better quality. And to be honest, these shades over here, again, are better quality than their counterparts in mini Biba. The next palette that came to mind is the Peak palette. Now, the Peak palette, again, is featured on the bottom, and it was a BoxyCharm exclusive. Honestly, between these two palettes, I do prefer the Peak. I think the shimmer is better, I think the mattes are better quality, and overall. And finally, the palette that I think is the best comparison is featured on the bottom, and that is mini Nude. So up top we have mini Biba, and at the bottom we have mini Nude. Honestly, for the longest time, I thought Mini Nude might as well have been a Mini Biba palette. Now, when we look at the swatches, the Mini Nude is a little bit more of a sort of coppery camel brown neutral, whereas Mini Biba is, you know, still more in that pink rosy tone. But as you can see, the quality of the shadow on Mini Nude is just, it's just in a completely different dimension. I can't believe these two palettes are released by the same brand, if I'm being quite honest. The first comparison I have is the Love Cheek Duo. I do find that the Love Cheek Duo has a much more vibrant, almost neon blush, and a much softer but yet very luminous highlighter. I then thought to compare it to the Blush and Glow palette. The Blush and Glow palette is 2 powder formulas, and I will say that the blush is a lot softer, more of a pastel. We'll already mention we are going to take one more look at the swatches for the Glam Face palette, and overall quite similar, although as previously mentioned, this one's more coral, and this one is more neutral. So here we have the swatches. We have the Love Cheek Duo, which has the most pink highlighter, followed by the Rose Cheek Duo, which is the palette we're discussing today. Next, we have the Blush and Glow Duo. You can really see that in more vibrant pink and more of a pastel, and also more of a pearl highlighter, whereas I would say the highlighter in the Rose Duo is more of a champagne. And then finally, in the Glam Face palette, we have a slightly more subdued blush and a very, very similar highlighter. I will say that the highlighter in the Glam palette is more vibrant compared to the highlighter in the Rose Cheek Duo. So Natasha claims that this palette is inspired by her best-selling Everyday Essential 15 Pan Biba eyeshadow palette. Extending the concept of an all-neutral palette, the shade extension features 5 brand new nude and brown shades with neutral rosy undertones. It is perfect to create a variety of looks for every occasion, from daytime looks to evening smoky eyes. What it does: provide maximum color payoff with minimal effort, blending seamlessly to achieve natural, ultra-pigmented, long-lasting looks. Its compact size is perfect for traveling and allows you to complete a whole look on the go. So I'm going to address that quickly. It definitely allows you to complete a whole look on the go. And I will say that these eyeshadows seem like they're optimized for the eye rather than for swatching. That being said, I would not say that this was a blending seamlessly minimal effort look. I'm the queen of low effort looks, okay? I love to just toss on some shimmery shadows, put a little bit of color in the crease and say, good enough. You know, I look good, I can go about my day. But this palette took a lot of work. I found it very difficult to build up the color, to blend it out, and honestly, it was kind of uncomfortable and dry on my eye. Now, the shades are described as follows. Bruno is a deep mahogany brown, Izzy is a nude dusty rose, Blaze Nude is a light rosy nude, Plush is a light medium dusty coral, and Wink is a medium dusty coral brown. So what I find the most interesting is that this palette continues to be described in the dusty coral frame rather than a dusty rose. I think dusty rose is something that we've become very familiar with in the beauty community. I haven't really seen dusty coral. I think dusty coral is the correct term, and I'm not gonna lie, I think the look looks beautiful on my eyes. My biggest point of contention is just how much work it was to get here. The other thing I wanted to point out is that while some of the shadows are described as a creamy matte, those aren't her typical creamy matte formulas, and typically I really love her creamy matte formula, but I found these really, really hard and annoying to build up. That being said, what the actual winner in this duo for me was actually, oddly enough, the Rose and Cheek Duo. Not only is it very reasonably priced, all of her mini products are, at least in the world of luxury makeup, and in the world where her palette that I love the most is $170. Now, while this is a cream blush, I found that it was best to treat it like a powder. So this I can actually see becoming, you know, part of my everyday makeup routine. I think this will be near the top of my drawer, something I can reach for, and I just can't say the same for Mini Biba. And that actually makes me really sad because I love the full-size Biba palette. I'm always reaching for the full-size Biba palette, and to be honest, I could probably just wear that on my channel, but when I'm filming, I really do make an effort not to wear the same exact palette every single time. It's the same look, I just try to switch up the palette. But when it comes to my everyday looks, or if I'm looking for something reliable for going out with friends, or, you know, to photograph or what have you, then I'm definitely reaching for Biba all the time. It's honestly one of my all-time favorite palettes. Its little cousin just didn't hit the mark for me. I would say that if you're interested in the blush, then I would definitely pick that up. If you are interested in the eyeshadow quint, well, it's not terrible. I think that the Mini Glam is so much better. The formula is better, it's gonna give you a similar look, and is so much easier to work with. Honestly, the Mini Glam is one of my all-time favorite Natasha Denona eyeshadows. And I've been working really hard on ranking all of my Natasha Denona eyeshadows, but she keeps on releasing new ones. Now, I can't believe I'm about to say this because I did not give the Glam face palette the most glowing review, but I've continued to use it since the review and it has grown on me. It's still not my favorite in the world, but I will say that if the eyeshadow and the blush are both on your wish list and you don't already have the Glam face palette, I think you're going to be so much happier with the Glam face palette than you will with either of the minis that was available on this launch. I think the Glam face palette, now that I know that the cream, maybe it's not supposed to be this way, but I find the best way to treat that cream is to treat it like a powder blush. And I find these eyeshadows just so much easier to work with, easier to blend. Honestly, I had such high hopes for the mini Biba, and I definitely picked it up without hesitation because of the love I have for the full-size Biba. Now, if you are somebody who's been holding back on spending that 170 Canadian dollars on the Biba palette, and you thought to yourself, wow, I'm finally gonna get a piece of that Biba magic, well, you're wrong. I didn't think I would dislike it this much, and yet here we are. So I've offered you some alternatives if you are still interested. And to be clear, I don't want to knock how the look turned out. It turned out beautifully. It just wasn't Natasha's best work. And given the hype around Biba, I think I would have liked to have seen her best work. I feel pretty, I feel confident, I will use this quint again. But I just didn't like how much effort it took to build it up. I expect a little bit more of a seamless and effortless experience from Natasha and other high-end makeup brands, and this one, it just didn't give me what I've come to expect. If you want to pick up this quad or this quint, that's okay. I really hope it works for you, and I hope that you have a different opinion than mine. But I wanted to share this video ASAP because I know that there's a lot of hype and interest in this palette, and if I can save you some money, I definitely will. So that is my honest review. I purchased these products with my own money. If you haven't already, please subscribe if you like honest reviews of luxury makeup. And we are doing Vlogmas, so we've still got another day to go. Maybe 2 days, haven't decided if I'm doing this all year. But I am going to leave the playlist link down below if you want to check out my other videos from Vlogmas. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope we'll see you soon. Bye. Mwah.